So it is official, Father Jose contracted COVID-19. At this point of the pandemic, certainly it is more an inconvenience than anything else. Just can't imagine what must have been like having the other variants. And well, it's been 2 years and 2 months since this whole thing started. So, anyways, I'm missing a lot of things in church. We had some activities of the school that I couldn't participate in. We had an ordination. This weekend is actually First Communions at our parish of All Saints, and so Father Steve is the one that is taking care of all the First Communion masses. So I'm going to be missing all of that. So, anyways, we have to pray for one another, and I am slowly recovering. I figure I would share some reflections on today's gospel, this weekend's gospel, but also first reading and second reading, because the first reading has a lot of information about the journeys of St. Paul, which is from the Acts of the Apostles. And I would like to share all of this with all of you because I had the great privilege in the past of spending an entire month in the areas that are described in the reading of today, which is Acts 14. I'm using Google Earth right here. So we are departing Bay City and we are going all the way to what is today the country of Turkey. And Turkey is only an ocean away from Ukraine. You're hearing about Ukraine all the time these days. Well, Turkey is south of Ukraine, beyond the Black Sea. So it's a big country. It's a 99.8% Muslim. But at one time, that country used to be a Christian country. And this is where we start the reading. After Paul and Barnabas had proclaimed the good news to that city, this is the city, Derbe, and made considerable number of disciples, they returned to Lystra. Here we are in Lystra. And to Iconium. So we're going to go to Iconium right here, which is the current city of Konya. And to Antioch, which is another Antioch called Antioch of Pisidia. So we're going to go over there. Again, this is Acts 14:21 and forward. So they are going from Iconium to Antioch of Pisidia. And it says, they strengthened the spirits of the disciples and exhorted them to persevere in the faith, saying, it is necessary for us to undergo many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. And they appointed elders for them in each church, and with prayer and fasting, commending them to the Lord in whom they have put their faith. And so this is the place of Antioch of Pisidia, and used to be a very large Roman city, very pagan, and then eventually it became Christian. So all those places are still kept in here. Then it says, then they traveled through Pisidia and reached Pamphylia. And after proclaiming the word at Perga, which is this one, Perge, they also went down to Attalia. We're going to be going over there in a second. So these are all real places, folks, when we hear these passages from the Acts of the Apostles. So they went to Attalia, which now it's called Antalya. And from there they sailed to Antioch, says the first reading, where they had been commended by the grace of God for the work they had now accomplished. And when they arrived, they called the church together. This is Antioch of Syria. And they reported what God had done with them and how he had opened the door of faith to the Gentiles. This is the Catholic Church in Antakya, which is Antioch of Syria. There are two Antiochs in the country of Turkey. And so they reported what God had done with them and how he had opened the door of the faith to the Gentiles. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So that's a zoom out of Antakya, Antioch. and then the entire country of Turkey. The heart of Turkey is the area called Galatia, which is near Ankara. So that will be where St. Paul eventually wrote the letter to the Galatians. All these areas, they were heavily Christian, but now they are mostly Muslim. So what we hear in this reading of the Acts of the Apostles is we hear the church um, like a faithful wife of Christ who is working hard. That's exactly what St. Paul had been doing in all these places. It's a lot of distance. The narrating time given to us in the text of the Acts of the Apostles is very quick. It's a matter of seconds, not even a minute perhaps. And this is the thing, is that um, it covers a lot of miles. We just did it through Google Earth. And so we see really the church hard at work as a faithful wife of the Christ. And the Lord had called the church to work hard on the ministry of evangelization. But then in the second reading of today in the book of Revelation, we see the church not only as a faithful wife, but we see it at the moment of the wedding itself as a faithful bride. Then I, John, saw the new heaven and the new earth, and it continues. Then it says, and then I saw the holy city, a new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, God's dwelling is with the human race. He will be dwelling with them, and they will be his people, and he will be always with them as their God. So you can see that contrast of the first reading, which is the Acts of the Apostles, the faithful wife who's working hard, and the second reading in the book of Revelation, the faithful bride who is beautiful in the presence of God. And then in the gospel, we see how Jesus commands his bride and wife, the church, how they have to live their life. My children, I will be with you only for a little while longer. I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. So you also should love one another. This is how we all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. That was the Gospel of John, chapter 13. So may the Lord continue blessing all of us, so that we may remain faithful as a faithful bride, as a faithful wife of Christ, the church, that the Lord may find us blameless and take into account all our works, and that we may continue advancing his kingdom here on earth by the way that we love one another just as Jesus loved us. God bless you. Have a good week.